The second topic of Introduction to Criticism. This is the basic principles of mimesis. Let's explore.
Hi, hello, welcome back. Welcome back to my course, Introduction to Criticism. I am Dianur Rahman here. This is the second topic that I will explore for the course of Introduction to Criticism. And here in this video, the second topic itself, namely the basic principles of mimesis. This topic is actually based on Plato's thought, and we will have some review on the things related to Plato's thought himself in terms of the Republic. Republic, the text that has been written by Plato himself. So, this second topic, before I go further, I think it is better for you to click like and also don't forget to subscribe on my channel. Thank you very much. So, the basic principles of mimesis. This is the second topic that we discuss in this introduction to criticism. And you have to know that in this second topic, we will go further to recognize the principles of mimesis, which will be based on how Plato's thought on the things related to the mimesis itself. Actually, when we look at the text of Republic, as I have also cited in this book, so for the students of the English department of UIN, UI and Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, I think you just come to this book and open the book and let's explore together for the basic principles of mimesis itself. So if you take a look at this text, this book, and particularly for this text, for basic principles of mimesis, and you read Republic for book 2 and book 10, so you will recognize that there are two things related to the mimesis itself, or in particular, I suggest you to read book 2 first, and then after that book 10. Why is that so? Because there are two things which is really treated differently by Plato, actually, inside book 2 and book 10. We are going to know this by exploring the text of book 2, the Republic of book 2 itself. In book 2, you are suggested to see literature, to see literary text as something higher than anything, as something higher than philosophy, perhaps. So, but in book 10, we will go further to understand or to recognize that something related to the literature or to literary text, to the imitations, actually some bad things. There are some bad things. There are actually lower than the carpenter, than Plato also discussing the mimesis related to the analogy of something like that. So, why in book 2 then we are suggested and we are also presented the things that literature is regarded as something higher than anything, because Plato treated literature is actually as the part of education. So let's explore. I'm going to read some of the sentences in Book 2 of the Republic. This is the Plato's book in common. Actually, Plato's book, written in the form of dialogue, written in the form of dramatic form. And in this book too, the person of the dialogue is Socrates and Mimesis. Socrates is always the major figure inside Plato's writing, including in this Republic. So, I would like to read some sentences in this Republic to get more understanding about the education itself. Why, for instance, we are having some relationships that literature itself is part of education. Alright, come then and let us pass a laser hour in storytelling, and our story shall be to education of our heroes. This is Socrates. By all means, then come and Mimesis. And what shall be their education? Can we find a better than the traditional sort? And this has two divisions: gymnastic for the body and music for the soul. True. Shall we begin education with music and go on to gymnastic afterwards? By all means. And when you speak of music, do you include literature or not? I do. And literature may be either true or false. Yes. So, from those sentences, we can conclude actually that literature is part of music, and because music itself is something in common at the time in Greek era, in the ancient Greek time. So music itself is actually a treatment for the soul. So there are two divisions in education actually: gymnastic for body and music for the soul. Again, gymnastic for body and music for the soul. So in the context of education itself, then we understand the body and the soul is the parts of the parts that can be educated, can be treated like we have an education, like we have some learnings, something like that. So, as you know, literature is part of music, and according to Plato, Socrates, then literature may be either true or false. Literature may be either true or false. Okay, I'm going to read several sentences more. And the young should be trained in both kinds, and will begin with the false. I do not understand your meaning, he said. Well, you know, that we begin by telling children stories which, though not wholly destitute of truth, are in the main fictitious, and these stories are told them when they are not of a nature to learn gymnastics. Very true. That was my meaning when I said that we must teach music before gymnastics. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this part, then we actually know that music is the thing that is really important to teach in the age of young children. In the young children. Why is that so? Because according to Plato, you know also that the beginning is the most important part of any work, especially in the case of a young and tender thing, for that is the time at which the character is being formed and the desired impression is more readily taken. So, when we were child, we were taught by our parents some stories, some fables, for instance, some stories, some fables, some fairy tales. That is really a kind of important thing to be taught until now. Actually, I think like that, because in the young age, then we only know that the children has to function their imagination, has to function their fantasy. So therefore, they can make a general good character for them, something like that. So if the children are being taught by gymnastics directly before music, so I think that will be broken. Because at the young age, when the children in the young age, then it is going to be readily taken for the things in terms of imagination, rather than how to build our body, how to think logically, for instance, and so on and so forth. So let's avoid first let's draw out first about, let's say, the logic, the mathematics, the context of really related to gymnastics to build the body. But then come music for the first. Come music, come literature, come stories, come fairy tales, something like that. Okay, I'm going to read several sentences more. And shall we just carelessly lull children to hear any casual tales which may be devised by casual persons, and to receive into their minds ideas for the most part the very opposite of those which we should wish them to have when they are grown up? We can't. Then, according to Plato, because we don't because we don't like to be the casual person who tell the casual tales, then the first thing to be conducted is that a censorship of the writers of fiction, and let the censors receive any tale of fiction which is good and reject the bad. That's according to Plato. And we will desire mothers and nurses to tell their children, and authorized ones only. The authorized ones only. So it means that there are some stories that cannot be readily taken, cannot be could not be given to the children, since there are many lies, for example. There are many things that is really, making children to be, to be the person who are broken in the character building, to be like the evil, for instance, to be the devil's character. I think that such thing should be censored. That's according to Plato. Why is that so? Because there are the false literature. The false literature is that really related to the erroneous representation. I'm going to read several sentences. Let them fashion the mind with such tales if more fondly than they would the body with the hands. But most of those which are now in use must be discarded. According to Plato, at the time, this is related to some historical things, actually. But I don't pretend myself to tell you some historical things because any kind of things that there are so much things to be told when I have to tell about the historical things. I think. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I let you to search yourself about a detailed one of the let's say the historical things themselves. But I'm going to tell you one important thing about the historical thing itself. That at the time there are so much stories which are not really suited, which are not really suitable with the children at a young age. You have to know that. And therefore, Plato said, but most of those which are now in use means at the time, at Plato's time, must be discarded, something like that. So must be discarded. And Adeimantus going to ask that of what tales are you speaking? You may find the mother of the lesser in the greater. So the lesser in the greater, it means that what Plato's thought here is actually mocking. Mocking mocking Homer. Homer was a good and great, amazing, awesome poet at the time. But some stories are not really suitable with the children. So, according to Plato, those are such which are narrated by Homer and Hesiod and the rest of the poets who have ever been the great storytellers of mankind. So that was the thing that I have said earlier. Again and again, Adeimantus asked, but which stories do you mean, he said, and what fault do you find with them? A fault which is more serious. I said the fault of telling a lie, and what is more, a bad lie. Again and again, Adeimantus asked, but when is this fault committed? And the final answer made by Plato here, whenever an erroneous representation is made the nature of the gods and heroes, as when a painter paints a portrait not having the shadow of likeness to the original. So therefore, I have written the topics for discussion about this one also. So you may find on page 38 on my book here. The first topic for discussion is about how does Plato view literature. The second one, why Plato asserts that we need to establish the censor of fiction that I have discussed earlier, previously, that the censorship of fiction itself is really needed, is really a must. This is a must to censor the literature which is good, which is bad, I mean, and then receive the literature, the tale which is good only, the authorized ones only, to give the stories to children, to be told to children. All right, then we come to the next part of the awareness representation as the number 3 of my topic for discussion here. So awareness representation itself really related to the kind of things that when gods and heroes are really displayed or really described as the ones who likely to destroy something, for instance, to have a war, to have to be a destroyer, and then something else. Actually, so that is the awareness representation. So this is the thing that is really mocking the great poet at the time, that Zeus, for instance, Homer, Hesiod, and the rest of the poets at the time also always describe gods and heroes as something brutal, like to deceive the other gods, and so on and so forth. So that was something error. That is the context of awareness representation itself. So all of the rest of the text in the Republic Book 2 actually supported such kind of idea. The kind of that literature for the very first time is considered as the higher one, which can be regarded as the thing that should be taught to children rather than gymnastic for the first time. But then in that context also, we know now then what kind of literature is actually which can be taught, which can be given to children, which can be told, which can be narrated, which can be described to children. Yes, the good one, the authorized ones only. And that kind of authorized one is whenever the literature which is not having the awareness representation itself. Well, I think, I'm going to tell you also, to read several sentences. Whether they are supposed to have an allegorical meaning or not, for a young person cannot judge what is allegorical and what is literal. And I think that he received into his mind at that age is likely to become indelible and unalterable. And therefore it is most important that the tale which the young first hear should be models of virtuous thought. It means that Plato here in Book 2 again and again considers literature as something higher, something good, something that can be a device for teaching children. But again and again, we have to understand that such kind of teaching itself should be really based on the good literature, because young children or at the young age, people could not see whether it is allegorical, whether it is literal, whether it is metaphorical, whether it is a kind of symbol, whether it is related to something denoting or connoting, something denotatum or connotatum, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it is most important, according to Plato again here, the tale which is the young first hear should be models of virtuous thoughts. A kind one, a good one, the best literature is the virtuous thoughts, something like that. don't give children with an absurd ones. Don't give children some stories that is not really related to virtues, to gods, to heroes, and so on and so forth. And then, okay, I think that's enough for discussing the part 1 of the Republic. I mean, the book 2 of the Republic, which can be concluded that Plato, in this side, in this Republic book 2, he considered that literature is a good one. He considered literature as the best device for teaching children. Something like that. And now we are going to have the discussion on book 10 for Republic itself. Okay, if in the book 2 again and again we are having a good impression, a good thing related to literature, then it is related to how good thoughts, virtuous thoughts, good descriptions about gods, about heroes are likely to be displayed in good ones. This is also related to the imitation. This is related also to the mimesis, but in the good ones, in the best ones, something like that. Then, in the context of book 10, I would like to tell you that this is actually a broader a broader explanation about the mimesis itself, about how literature is regarded then, after this, becomes the thing that is really not good, the thing that is really lower than the carpenter, lower than the thing in this life, something like that. So let's explore from book 10. So here, can you tell me what imitation this is? Here I would like to tell you first about from book 10, persons of the dialect is Socrates and Glaucon. If in the book 2 we have Socrates and Mimesis, and here we have Socrates and Glaucon. Well, let me tell you here from page 23 first. This is the starting point. Can you tell me what imitation Plato asked? For I really do not know. And then Glaucon said, a likely thing then, either I should know. Why not? For the duller eye may often see a thing sooner than the keener. Very true is that. But in your presence, even if I had any faint notion, I could not muster courage to utter it. Will you inquire yourself? Then Plato give us a definition about the imitation itself. Well then, shall we begin the inquiry in our usual manner? Whenever a number of individuals have a common name, we assume them to have also a corresponding idea of form. Do you understand me? I do. Let us take any common instance. There are beds and tables in the world. Plenty of them, are there not? Yes. But there are only two ideas of forms of them. One of the idea of a bed and the other of a table. So here, actually, we are given the things about the idea, about the realm of the idea. You have to know that in Plato's thought, what is going to be named as the idea, not the idea in our mind. No, not a likely thing. We could say, for instance, oh, I've got an idea. No, that is not really related to the idea of like that thing. Idea, I'm going to tell you now, idea in Plato's thought is related to reality, related to forms. Forms. Plato himself do not explain in detail about the form itself. Where is the form? Where is the realm of the idea itself? Yeah, I think he also confused on that. I don't know. Perhaps he also confused on that. But something to remember again and again, that here Plato also described whenever a number of individuals, what are individuals? Individuals like this one book, individual like this, like me here, Dian Rahman here. This is the person, this is individual. I have a common name. I am Dian Rahman. We assume them to have also corresponding idea or form. Corresponding idea or form. I don't know where is the location of form itself, of the idea itself, but the most important thing that the Anurahman, which is the original, is not here. The Anurahman as the original form is actually in the realm of the idea, the realm of the form itself, something like that. So actually, what is that? Individual, not really meant to person, not really related. Not only related to person, not only related to people, but this will also be related to any kind of individuals in this world, in this universe, stars, mountains, all of in the natural things, natures, waters. What are they more? Yes, of course, people, of course, human, of course, animal, plants, and so on and so forth. So I think, corresponding idea or form, yeah, that is the location is outside there. I don't know where, because Plato didn't give a detailed more explanation about this one. So let's go to the context of how could this idea, this form also present in reality, present in nature, something like that. Let me read several sentences here. But there are only two ideas or forms of them. I continue. One, the idea of a bed, the other of a table. 3, and the maker of either of them makes a bed, or he makes a table for our use, in accordance with the idea that is our way of speaking in this and similar instances, but to artificer makes the ideas themselves. How could he? Impossible. And that is another artist. I should like to know what you would say of him. Who is he? One who is the maker of all the works of other workmen. What an extraordinary man. No, that is not really extraordinary man. Wait a little. And that will be more reason for you saying this. So, For this is he who is able to make not only vessels of every kind, but plants of animals, and himself and all other things in this earth and heaven, and the thing which are in heaven and under the earth. He makes the gods also. Wow, imagine that there are some people who can make gods. There are some people who can make heaven, can make plants, animals. He could create everything. He must be a wizard, your mistake. Glaucon said, "Oh, you are incredulous, are you? Do you mean that there is no such a maker or creator, or that in one sense there might be a maker of these things, but in another not? Do you see that that is a way in which you could make them all yourself?" So, and then continuing this one to page 25. Very good, I said. You are coming to the point of view, and the painter too is as a conceived just as another a creator or appearances, is he not? Of course, but then I suppose you will say that what he creates is untrue, and yet that is a sense in which the painter also creates a bad. Yes, he said, but not a real bad. Again, so in the hierarchy of the mimesis, we can conclude that that is the realm. That is the realm of the idea. That is the realm of forms, which the location is nowhere. I don't know where Plato also, I think, didn't know about the location of the idea itself, but it exists. It exists. The most important thing that the idea exists. Realm of idea, and then below the what is that? The idea, we can find a reality. We can find reality, and then lower than that, also we can find about the production which imitates reality. So this is the idea. This is reality, and then lower than that, art or literature. Let me tell you something. I am Jan Rahman here. Is not, according to this theory, is not really the real person, the real man, no. Because the real person is actually inside the idea. In the idea, I mean. The Anurahman here is the Anurahman which imitated the idea, which presents in reality. Which presents in reality. And then come to my house, a person, a painter. A painter would like to paint me. We would like to paint myself. Then me, I mean. Then a painter started to paint, to make a painting, to make a sketch first, and then also something related to all the related to paintings. Then come the paintings of me. So that kind of paintings of me is included into art, included into literature. The literature itself is imitated me in the reality, while me in the reality is actually an imitation from the idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, art or literature in Plato's view, in Plato's thought, is actually the kind that really having lies, that is really having bad lies, Why is that so? Because it tries removed from the truth. It tries or even tries not only twice but also tries removed from the true reality, the true nature, the true idea, the true forms. So something like that. That's a table, that is a bed in the idea, and then that is a carpenter who make a bed, who creates a bed in a reality. And then that is a painter who make a painting of the bed created by a carpenter. How false that art then? How false is that literature is actually then? Literature also described by the words, describing what is that? Describing the thing really related to nature, to universe, related to the beautiful view, for instance. But that truly false, you know. You have to note that according to Plato, all literary work are ruinous, are false to the understanding of the hearers. Something like that. So we may approach literary work then if we want to criticize, if we want to make a criticism based on this theory, then we come to view literature or literary work as something which having a good moral. So Plato is actually, besides he is an adherent for the idealism or a creator for the idealisms, a school of thought, a school of philosophy of idealism itself. Not only it's idealism, but also Plato is a moralist. Plato is a moralist, and then the view of Plato becomes a moralistic view. Then if you are curious to analyze, to criticize this novel, Lelaki Harimau by Eka Kurniawan, by approaching Lelaki Harimau by this theory, to approach Lelaki Harimau by this theory is actually you have to see whether this novel has a good moral view or not. So something like that. That's as simple as that. When you want to get some analysis, some criticism, and also approaching this, not only this novel actually, all novels, all literary works, all of the poems, whether the poems have good moral or not. Something like that. Have a good thing to teach to children or not. Something like that. So as simple as that as well. So let me tell you something more about the impossible to speak of the truth in literature. But that is an exception. When you just come to Republic, Book 10, at the end of the Book 10 itself. Okay, in my book, on page 37. Therefore, I would like to read it. Therefore, Glaucon, I said, whenever you meet with any of the eulogists of Homer, declaring that he has been the educator of Hellas. Hellas means people of the Greek. From Hella. Hella means Greek. Hella is the Greek term for Greek. Hella. So Hellas means the people of Greek or Greek people. That he has been the educator of Hellas, and that he is profitable for education and for the ordering of human things, and that you should take him up again and again and go to know him and regulate your whole life according to him. We may love and honor those who say these things that are excellent people, as far as their lives extend, and we are ready to acknowledge that Homer is the greatest of poets and first of tragedy writers. But this is a sentence that you should underline. You should underline this one. But we must remain firm in our conviction that hymns to the gods and praises of famous men are the only poetry which ought to be admitted into our state. It means that good literature should include hymns to the gods and praises to the famous men. Hymns to the gods, like what? I think Solawatan is the kind that is really related, a moralist thing for this view, a suitable thing for this view. So, hymns to the gods and praises to the famous men are the only poetry which ought to be admitted into our state. Again and again, Plato is a moralist person. Then he taught us to be a moralist. He taught us that good literature must include hymns to the gods and praises to the famous men. And for if you go beyond this and allow the honey muse to enter, it is an epic or lyric verse, not low and the desire of mankind, which by common consent have ever been deemed best. But pleasure and pain will be the rules in our state, because according to Plato, if we only admit the literature which show us the pleasure, show us the kind of really lies, war, and so on and so forth. So pleasure and pain will be the rulers in our state. That is according to Plato. So there is an exception about literature, and this kind of literature is really good to teach to children. Something like that. As simple as that. So the Mimesis itself is actually related to how people always use his efforts. People always use their efforts to lie the other people. By what? By some things related to imitation. Something related to Mimesis itself. So when we are talking about literature, so literature is actually a mimesis, a copy from a copy, because what is usually drawn, what is usually read by us in poetry, in literature, in novels, are actually just imitating the reality. Meanwhile, reality itself is a kind of imitation from the idea. So something like that. So to be a good reader of literature, then we have to admit that in literature we have to find that in literary work, in literature itself, that there should be a kind of hymns to the gods and praises to the famous man. It means again and again the context of moralist thing, the context of whether some kinds of literature have good moral or not, something like that. Well, I think that is enough for my explanation. It is too long for making some explanation more about the historical things. I think you can go to to the other sources for making some understanding also about let's say the context to things, because I will limit my video here to give you some basic points of the topic itself. Then there are some some questions that have been discussed, have been asked in our discussion last week. So actually I hope that the things that I have explained it to you also can answer your questions. But the most important question that I still remember actually related to how about knowledge. Is that knowledge also imitated in reality or not? About that thing. That question is about that thing. So actually, when I read Ion, another text from Plato, so actually all of the things in this world, in this life, is actually imitated. There is no one thing which is original. So if I read Ion, I found here the sentence: for all good poets, epic as well as lyric, compose their beautiful poems not by art, but because they are inspired and possessed. Inspired and possessed. It means that we don't have any clear idea. We don't have any any original idea. We as the people, we as human, don't have any original idea, because any kind in this world is only an imitation. That's it for my explanation. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week in the later video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.